The careers of most successful pop and rock bands tend to follow a similar path. They start off united with a shared purpose, but over time the relationships begin to break down. It's rare for a band, especially one with just 2 members, to split up before even releasing a single song, and certainly not in a remote place like Wagga Wagga, Australia. Yet that's exactly what happened when Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart left the Tourists and formed the Eurythmics 45 years ago, which led to some of the biggest hits of the 1980s. It's a remarkable story, but then, this duo was never ordinary. Annie, born on Christmas Day in 1954 in Aberdeen, was talented in music, poetry and art, and dreamed of becoming a professional flautist while growing up in a working-class family. At that point, appearing on Top of the Pops was far from her mind. Instead, while attending Aberdeen High School for Girls, which later became Harlaw Academy, she sang in the choir, played in symphony ensembles, and took dance lessons from a teacher named Marguerite Feltjes. In dance class, Annie learned a method called Eurythmics, a movement-based approach to music education. A decade later, and without the H, she made one of the most important decisions of her life. When she first moved to London to study at the Royal Academy of Music, she admitted to being naive and idealistic. Coming from a strict background and being an only child, she soon realised how challenging the move was. She said, "It was very hard because I had so little money. Really, almost nothing. London was a huge city, and I had no friends, no one to relate to other than the students I met at college. It felt very isolating." Many people in her position might have returned home to Scotland, but Annie was determined. She started working in a health food shop while studying, and soon enough she caught the attention of Dave Stewart. He remembered. She was all Laura Ashley dresses and long brown hair at first. When I first went to her tiny bedsit, she sang a song she had written on a harmonium. I thought, "What are you doing as a waitress? You're an artist." The next few years passed in a blur, and when they joined the Tourists, they quickly became famous, with their music being covered by New Musical Express, Melody Maker, and Sounds, and their songs like "The Loneliest Man in the World," "I Only Want to Be With You," and "So Good to Be Back Home Again," achieving regular chart success. Annie, as the lead singer, was the main focus of attention, but despite her striking appearance and apparent confidence, she was actually very shy. She also had to deal with the kind of sexist treatment that many female artists faced long before the Me Too movement. Dave later said, "During the punk era, a woman wearing a skirt was pretty wild. A lot of people were leering and being sexist. The Tourists broke up almost as quickly as they had risen to fame. Their breakup, which happened on the other side of the world, left them both feeling confused and unsure of what would come next." This situation could be compared to the film Rashomon, where different people offer contradictory versions of the same event. The Tourists were struggling. Their main songwriter, Pete Coombs, was a drug addict whose erratic behaviour eventually led to the band's downfall. Dave remembered, "Annie and I went to Australia, but the band broke up and we ended up in a hotel in Wagga Wagga. I had a small Wasp synthesizer and was making sounds like a didgeridoo. When Annie started singing along, we thought, maybe we could make strange experimental music together. On the flight back, we broke up as a couple but kept making music. We carried our gear in a second-hand horse box. At one of our first gigs, we played to just 4 people, then drove home through the night in the snow. We had to stop the car, and I realised we needed proper equipment, so we went to the bank. We sat in the manager's office, this odd couple, but amazingly, he lent us £5,000. If someone less understanding had been in charge, the whole Eurythmics project might have ended there." Annie was open about the difficulties they faced. Their first album, In the Garden, recorded in Cologne, Germany, was released in 1981. While it had plenty of electronic elements and the involvement of Kraftwerk producer Conny Plank, it wasn't promoted well, lacked obvious singles, and received lukewarm reviews. At the time, the charts were full of one-hit wonders and bands who didn't last, and gimmicks often took precedence over real talent. Annie, for all her resilience and unique voice, began to wonder if she and Dave would ever make it. That feeling of frustration came through in their songwriting, which led to one of the most successful and misunderstood songs in pop history. Annie explained, "It's basically me saying, look at the state we're in, how can it get any worse?" The song was an expression of how I felt, hopeless and nihilistic. That song was Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. The struggles they faced while living in run-down flats and dealing with dodgy characters finally paid off. Ironically, the title track from their album was the fourth and final single released, but it became their breakthrough hit. The song reached number 2 on the UK singles chart and number 1 on the US Billboard Hot 100. The music video played a key role in its success, and it was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2020. People have often misunderstood the song's meaning, with some even jokingly thinking the lyrics were "Sweet dreams are made of cheese." But it connected with millions around the world. As Annie said of the lyrics, "I travelled the world and the 7 seas, everybody's looking for something," was about how we're all always searching for something. She described it as a weird mantra that somehow became their theme song, and apparently it's the most misheard lyric in British pop. The duo were never easily pigeonholed, which perhaps made them even more appealing. Annie made a conscious decision to be as strong and powerful as Dave in everything they did. She wore suits, cropped her hair, and sometimes looked like David Bowie or Kate Bush. Their hits kept coming, both in the UK and the US, including Who's That Girl, Here Comes the Rain Again, There Must Be an Angel, It's Alright, Baby's Coming Back, Would I Lie to You, Angel, and Right by Your Side. Not many artists get to share a duet with the legendary Aretha Franklin, but Annie did, and the song Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves became an anthem for women everywhere. Living such a busy and demanding lifestyle took its toll though. Despite their success in 1990, Eurythmics announced they were going their separate ways, but that didn't mark the end of their music. Their greatest hits album went straight to number 1 in the UK in 1991 and stayed there for 10 weeks. Soon after, Annie released her debut solo album Diva, which went quadruple platinum, selling more copies than any Eurythmics album, and cemented her as not only a musical star, but a strong voice on political and women's issues. After almost a decade apart, Annie and Dave reunited in the late 1990s to release the album Peace. The accolades they received showed their lasting global fame. Annie has won more Brit Awards than any other female artist. But her life took another turn in 2003 when she met Nelson Mandela in South Africa to perform at a concert for the HIV/AIDS Foundation 46664. This was a far cry from her childhood in Aberdeen, where her parents had warned her she'd end up in a factory if she didn't focus on her studies. From those early struggles in London, Annie went on to become one of the UK's most famous stars, but she's remained grounded and committed to social causes, something she explored when she appeared on the BBC show Who Do You Think You Are in 2012. Annie and Dave have often expressed their gratitude for that bank loan that helped make their dreams a reality. As Annie put it, from the very start, when we were trying to make music together in the Eurythmics, the goal was to create something meaningful that people would connect to. Now, when I meet people, they say, "I grew up with your music." I don't know them, but they know me through the music, so clearly it worked.